We are the Parker SSI Club.
One day, a hungry fox was preparing to hunt for his dinner. As he polished his claws, he was startled by a knock at the door. "Hey, Rabbit!" someone yelled. "Are you home?" "Rabbit?" thought the fox. "If there were any rabbits in here, I'd have eaten them for breakfast." Have you ever heard of the story of the three little pigs? Well, this story is the opposite of that. One day, a pig finds himself at hungry Mr. Fox's house. When Mr. Fox sees this pig, he is elated. Though, the pig doesn't get eaten. Join this clever pig in his trickery in My Lucky Day by Kaiko Kaza. When the fox opened the door, there stood a delicious-looking pig. "Oh no!" screamed the piglet. "Oh yes!" cried the fox. "You've come to the right place." He grabbed the piglet and hauled him inside. "This must be my lucky day!" the fox shouted. "How often does dinner come knocking on the door?" The piglet kicked and squealed. "Let me go! Let me go!" "Sorry, pal. This isn't just any dinner. It's pig roast, my favorite. Now get into the roasting pan." It was useless to struggle. "All right," sighed the piglet. "I will, but..." "But what?" growled the fox. "Well, I am a pig, you know. I'm filthy. Shouldn't you wash me first? Just a thought, Mr. Fox." The fox said to himself. "He is filthy." So the fox got busy. He collected twigs. He made a fire. He carried in the water. And finally, he gave the piglet a nice bath. "You're a terrific scrubber," said the piglet. "There," said the fox. "Now you're the cleanest pig in the country. You stay still now, all right?" "Okay," sighed the piglet. "I will, but..." "But what?" growled the fox. "Well, I am a very small pig, you know. Shouldn't you fatten me up to get more meat? Just a thought, Mr. Fox." The fox said to himself. He is on the small side. So the fox got busy. He picked tomatoes. He made spaghetti. He baked cookies. And finally, he gave the piglet a nice dinner. "You're a terrific cook," said the piglet. "There," said the fox. "Now you're the fattest piglet in the country. So get into the oven." "All right," sighed the piglet. "I will, but..." "What? What? What?" shouted the fox. "Well, I am a very hard-working pig, you know. My meat is awfully tough. Shouldn't you massage me to get a more tender roast? Just a thought, Mr. Fox." The fox said to himself. "I do prefer a more tender meat." So the fox got busy. He pushed and he pulled and he squeezed and he pounded the piglet from head to toe. "You give a terrific massage," said the piglet. "But," the piglet continued, "I've been working really hard lately. My back is awfully stiff. Could you push a bit harder, Mr. Fox? A little to the right? Yes, yes. No, a little to the left. Mr. Fox? Are you there?" But Mr. Fox was no longer listening. He had passed out exhausted. He couldn't lift a finger, let alone a roasting pan. "Poor Mr. Fox," sighed the piglet. "He's had a very busy day." Then the cleanest, fastest, and softest piglet in the country picked up the rest of his cookies and headed for home. "What a bath, what a dinner, what a massage!" cried the piglet. "This must be my lucky day." When he got home, the piglet relaxed before a warm fire. "Let's see," he wondered, looking at his address book. "Who shall I visit next?"
One day in class, Duncan went to take out his crayons and found a stack of letters with his name on them. Red Crayon. "Hey, Duncan, it's me, Red Crayon. We need to talk. You make me work harder than any of your other crayons. All year long, I wear myself out, coloring fire engines, apples, strawberries, and everything else that's red. I have to color all the Santas at Christmas and all the hearts on Valentine's Day. Your overworked friend, Red Crayon." Purple crayon. Dear Duncan, all right, listen. I love that I'm your favorite crayon for grapes, dragons, and wizard hats, but it makes me crazy that so much of my gorgeous colors goes outside the lines. If you don't start coloring inside the lines soon, I'm going to completely lose it. Your very neat friend, Purple crayon. Beige crayon. Dear Duncan, I'm tired of being called light brown or dark tan because I am neither. I'm beige and I'm proud. I'm also tired of being second place to Mr. Brown Crayon. It's not fair that he gets all of the bears, ponies, and puppies, while the only things I get are turkey dinners and wheat. And let's be honest, when was the last time you saw a kid excited about coloring wheat? Your beige friend, Beige Crayon. Gray Crayon. Duncan, Gray Crayon here. You're killing me. I know you love elephants, but that's a lot of space for me to color in all by myself. And don't even get me started on your rhinos, hippos, and humpback whales. You know how tired I am? Your very tired friend, Gray Crayon. White Crayon. Dear Duncan, you color with me, but why? Most of the time, I'm the same color as the page you are using me on, white. If I didn't have a black outline, you wouldn't even know I was there. I'm not even in the rainbow. I'm only used to color snow or to fill an empty space between other things, and it leaves me feeling, well, empty. Your empty friend, White Crayon. Have you ever wondered about your crayon's feelings? Well, in this story, The Day the Crayons Quit by Drew Daywalt, all of Duncan's crayons complained to him about his coloring issues. Let's see what Duncan will do about this matter. Black Crayon. Hi, Duncan. I hate being used to draw the outline of things that are colored in by other colors, all of which think they're brighter than me. It's not fair when you draw a nice beach ball and then fill in the colors of the ball with all of the other crayons. Your friend, Black Crayon. Green Crayon. Dear Duncan, as Green Crayon, I'm writing for 2 reasons. One is to say that I like my workloads of crocodiles, trees, dinosaurs, and frogs. I have no problem and wish to congratulate you on a very successful coloring things green career so far. The second reason I write is for my friends, Yellow Crayon and Orange Crayon, who are no longer speaking to each other. Both crayons feel that they should be the color of the sun. Please settle this soon because they're driving the rest of us crazy. Your happy friend, Green Crayon. Yellow Crayon. Dear Duncan, Yellow Crayon here. I need you to tell Orange Crayon that I am the color of the sun. I can prove I'm the color of the sun too. Last Tuesday, you used me to color in the sun on your Happy Farm coloring book. In case you've forgotten, it's on page 7. You can't miss me. Your pal and the true color of the sun, Yellow Crayon. Orange Crayon. Dear Duncan, I see Yellow Crayon already talked to you, the big whiner. Anyway, could you please tell Mr. Tattletale he is not the color of the sun? We both know that I'm clearly the color of the sun because on Thursday, you used me to color the sun on both the Monkey Island and Meet the Zookeeper pages in your Day at the Zoo coloring book. Your pal and the real color of the sun, Orange Crayon. Blue Crayon. Dear Duncan, it has been great being your favorite color this past year, and the year before that. I've really enjoyed all those oceans, lakes, rivers, raindrops, and rain clouds, and clear skies. But the bad news is that I'm so short and stubby, I can't even see over the railing in the crayon box anymore. Your very stubby friend, Blue Crayon. Pink Crayon. Duncan, okay, you have not used me once in the past year. It's because you think I'm a girl's color, isn't it? Speaking of which, please tell your little sister I said thank you for using me to color in her Little Princess coloring book. Now back to us. Could you please use me sometime to color the occasional pink dinosaur or monster or cowboy? Goodness knows they could use a splash of color. Your unused friend, Pink Crayon. Peach Crayon. It's me, Peach Crayon. Why did you peel off my paper wrapping? Now I'm naked and too embarrassed to leave the crayon box. How would you like to? From Peach Crayon. Well, poor Duncan just wanted to color. And of course he wanted all of his crayons to be happy. And that gave him an idea. When Duncan showed his teacher his new picture, she gave him an A for creativity and an A+ for coloring.
You know the joke, why did the chicken cross the road? And you think it's funny, so you laugh about it for 20 minutes straight? Well, why can't the chicken just do what it wants to do without being judged? In the story Chicken Dance by Tammy Soar, Marge and Lola test out their talents to win tickets to Elvis Poultry Show. Will they win with the ducks against them? Chicken Dance by Tammy Soar. Elvis Poultry was top bird. They had to win those tickets. So the ducks quacked by. Don't bother, drumsticks. Ducks win every year. All a chicken can do is balk, flop, and shake. Marge and Lola ignored the quackers and tested out their talents. Phew. Ah! Don't hit me! Bowling was out. Phew. Ah! I'm on fire! So was juggling. And tightrope walking. We could try flying, Marge said. Lola grinned. Flying chickens? Now that's talent. The chickens scrambled to the top of the coop. They jumped, and they fluttered, and they sank in hay up to their wattles. The ducks flew by. Bail out, chickens, they called down below. Marge and Lola dusted themselves off and shook hay from their feathers. Now what? Said Lola. We could try swimming, said Marge. Lola nodded. Swimming chickens? Now that's talent. The chickens trotted to the pond. They jumped. They fluttered. And they totally sank. The ducks swam by. Get some floaties, chickens. Marge and Lola washed ashore and spit water from their beaks. Any other big ideas? Asked Lola. Marge stared at the setting sun. Too late. It's showtime. We'll have to wing it. The chickens bumbled to the barn, found their seats, and settled in for the show. The goats ate a tractor and scored a 7. Not bad, said Marge. The pigs formed a pyramid and scored an 8. I've seen better, said Lola. The cows jumped over the moon. That's old. We can still win this thing, said Lola. Suddenly, trumpets sounded. The crowd gasped. The ducks grabbed their boards and hit the water. They scored a 9. Smirking at the chickens, the ducks flounced back to their seats. We're on, said Marge. We're doomed, said Lola. The chickens shuffled on stage. They blinked at the crowd and gulped. What's the matter? Yelled a duck. Are you chicken? That put the chickens in a foul mood. They bucked, they flopped, and they shook all over the stage. More, 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 the crowd chanted. Marge and Lola looked at each other. But we're just doing regular chicken stuff, Marge whispered. Regular chicken stuff? Now that's talent. Lola grabbed a mic. Let's buck and roll. The chickens bucked and flapped and shake all over the stage. They scored an 8.5. Losers, the ducks called as they plucked the tickets from the prize table. Ducks rule. Marge and Lola wiped their eyes. Then, from the top of the barn, a voice crooned, You chicks rocked. A rooster swooped to the stage. You had me all shook up. Elvis Poultry was in the building. Elvis smoothed his crest. I sure could use an act like yours. Before Marge and Lola could say a word, duck feathers flew. The ducks lunged at the chickens when thump, thunk, thunk. The cows came home, scoring a perfect 10. The next day, a new poster was tacked in every barnyard in Countryside. Elvis Poultry and the Chicken Dancers, on stage live. The Big Bok Bagok. 50 barns and days coming to a farm near you.
Once upon a time, in a certain place in Africa, a small village lay across a river and a half-day's journey from a city where a great king lived. A man lived there with his 2 daughters, whose faces were a delight to look upon. Their names were Nyasha and Minyara. Nyasha was gentle and good-natured, and Minyara, well, she was the kind who saw the ugly in everything. Nothing pleased her, and the thing which pleased her the least was her little sister. She did her best to wipe the smile off Nyasha's face whenever she could. And one of her favorite things to say was, Someday, Nyasha, I will be the queen and you will be a servant in my household. To which her mild-mannered sister replied, "If that should come, I will be pleased to serve you." Manyara blamed Nyasha for everything, for making her look bad because she was so good, for growing a rich and bountiful garden while her own straggled wrong, and most of all, for being the favorite of their father. This story is about two beautiful sisters with very different personalities and very different outlooks on life. Both of them are invited to meet the king, who will choose one as his bride. Which sister will he marry? Let's find out. Nyasha just shrugged her shoulders and went to tend her garden. She sang while she weeded and watered, and her sunflowers and yams were so tall and vibrant that they attracted birds from all around. Birds weren't the only animals attracted to the garden. One morning, Nyasha noticed a snake resting beneath the yam vine. "Good day, little Nyoka. You are welcome here. You will keep away any creatures who might spoil my vegetables." She bent forward, gave the snake a loving pat on the head, and returned to her work. The garden flourished as time passed. One day, a messenger from the big city arrived. The most worthy and beautiful daughters of the land are invited to appear before the king, and he will choose one to become queen. That was the message. Now Mufara called for both his girls, assuring them that each of them had what it took to be chosen. He knew not of the rivalry between them, as Manyara was cunning as well as cruel, and Nyasha was passive as well as polite. She did not complain to her father because she knew it would sadden him to hear. Now Manyara tried to convince their father that Nyasha was too frail for the journey, and that she would waste away and miss her home if she went to the city. But her father would not hear of this plan. "Prepare yourselves for a journey to the city. I will call together all our friends to make a wedding party. We will leave as the sun rises." And so the plan was made. But greedy Manyara would not wait. She snuck away in the night, taking a pouch of food. She thought it would be easy to arrive at first, but she hadn't figured on the dark being so dark, or the way being so long. She was nervous, and suddenly a small boy appeared in her path. "I am hungry. Will you give me something to eat?" he asked sadly, eyeing her bag. But Manyara shoved him rudely aside, and saying that she had business to attend and no food to spare. And off she went. After a while, she came to an open place where the moonlight shone. And there an old woman sat upon a big rock, watching the girl approach. "I will give you some advice, Manyara," she offered. But the girl snorted rudely, asked how the lady knew her name, and tried to hurry past. The old woman gave her advice anyway. Soon, she said, Manyara would come to a grove of laughing trees whose laughter must not be returned. And then a man with his head tucked under his arm would pass by. She was to show him respect as well as the trees. Manyara was sure she knew better than a silly old granny sitting on a stone in the forest. So when a mile or so down the road, the trees on either side of her began to chuckle as she passed. She jeered right back. "I laugh at you, trees," and raced down on the path. That's when she saw a man with his head tucked under his arm, and she sure enough wasn't going to stop to make polite conversation with him. "I will be queen, I will be queen," was the rhyme that kept her feet moving all the way to the city. When dawn came in the village, they found her gone. Nyasha savored a look at her home, wondering if she would see it again. So suddenly, a small boy appeared in the pathway in front of Nyasha. He was so thin and forlorn that Nyasha immediately drew one of her homegrown roasted yams from her pack and saying, "You must be hungry." He took the yam and was gone. By and by, Nyasha saw an old woman pointing at the direction of the city. Her reward was a handful of the delicious sunflower seeds Nyasha had harvested. Now the path took them under a grove of tall trees, which swayed and bent respectfully before her. And now Nyasha ran ahead to top the sunrise before the others could catch up with her. She called to her father, and he joined her, and together they gazed in awe at the towers of the city in the distance. Later in the day, they reached the city gates, and whom should they see running towards them but Manyara? She was shaking and snuffling and clutched at her family. "Do not go to the king, my sister," she babbled, talking on and on of a snake with 5 heads who'd recited her faults and made her cower. Nyasha was scared, but she'd come this far and would see what her fortune brought her. Mufara took Manyara under his arm and watched his younger child climb the stairs and took the door to the king's chamber. With trepidation, she pushed through, and as her eyes adjusted to the dim light, she burst out giggling with relief. Indeed, there was a snake, her little friend Nyoka. "Why are you here?" the girl asked, stroking his smooth, soft scales, and he replied, "I am the king," and transformed into a young man whose warm brown skin glowed under the white of his robe. Gold bracelets encircled the muscles of which his bare arms, and his body seemed to ripple with strength as he told her, "I am the king. I am also the hungry boy with whom you shared a yam in the forest, and an old woman with whom you made a grist of sunflower seeds. But you know me best as Nyoka. I know you to be the most worthy and most beautiful daughter in the land. It would be my honor if you would to make you my wife." The preparations for the wedding were made, and Yasha herself baked them marriage bread of millet harvested from her own garden, rich with the love of her home. As for Mufaro, he lived happily ever after. Why not? He had 2 beautiful daughters, one of whom was a queen, and the other a servant in the queen's household. I'm done.
Amelia Bedelia by Peggy Parrish. Oh, Amelia Bedelia, your first day of work, and I can't be here. But I made the list for you. You do just what the list says, said Mrs. Rogers. Mrs. Rogers got into the car with Mr. Rogers. They drove away. My, what nice folks. I'm going to like working here, said Amelia Bedelia. Amelia Bedelia is a maid hired for the rich Mr. and Mrs. Rogers. When they give her a list of chores to do, she misinterprets the instructions since every chore in the book is an idiom. Not knowing this, she does the chores exactly how it says on the list. This causes a lot of chaos since the chores aren't being done correctly. Let's see what happens when the Rogers find out about this. Amelia Bedelia went inside. Such a grand house. These must be rich folks, but I must get to work. Here I stand just looking, and me with a whole list of things to do. Amelia Bedelia stood there a minute longer. I have an idea. I think I'll make a lemon meringue pie. As a surprise, I do make good pies. So Amelia Bedelia went into the kitchen. She put a little of this and a pinch of that into a bowl. She mixed and she rolled. There, she said. That's done. Now, let's see what this list says. Amelia Bedelia read, change the towels in the green bathroom. Amelia Bedelia found the green bathroom. These towels are very nice. Why change them? She thought. Then Amelia Bedelia remembered what Mrs. Rogers had said. She must do just what the list told her. Well, all right, said Amelia Bedelia. She got some scissors. She snipped a little here and a little there. And she changed those towels. Snip, 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 snip. There, said Amelia Bedelia. She looked at her list again. Dust the furniture. Amelia Bedelia saw a big box in the bathroom with the words dusting powder on it. A special powder to dust with, she exclaimed. So Amelia Bedelia dusted the furniture. My pie! Exclaimed Amelia Bedelia. She hurried to the kitchen. She took the pie out of the oven and put it onto the table to cool. Then she looked at her list. The meat market will deliver a steak. Please trim the fat before you put the steak in the icebox. Amelia Bedelia trimmed the fat with lace and ribbons. Do-do, do-do-do-do. Meanwhile, Amelia Bedelia heard the door open. The folks are back, she said. She rushed out to meet them. Mrs. Rogers was looking at the furniture in shock. The furniture! She cried. Did I dust it well enough? That's such nice dusting powder, said Amelia Bedelia. Mr. Rogers went to wash his hands.
I say, these are very unusual towels.
Mrs. Rogers dashed into the bathroom. exclaimed. Didn't I change them enough? Asked Amelia Bedelia. Mrs. Rogers went to the kitchen. Was the meat delivered? She asked. Yes, I trimmed the fat, just like you said. It does look nice. Mrs. Rogers rushed to the icebox. She opened it. Lace? Ribbons? Oh dear, shouted Mrs. Rogers. She was angry. Very angry. She opened her mouth, meant to tell Amelia Bedelia she was fired. But before she could do that, Mr. Rogers put something in her mouth. You are... It was so good, Mrs. Rogers forgot about being angry. Lemon meringue pie! She exclaimed. I made it to surprise you, said Amelia Bedelia happily. So right then and there, Mr. and Mrs. Rogers decided that Amelia Bedelia should stay. And so she did. Mr. Rogers didn't care if Amelia Bedelia trimmed all of his steaks with lace. All he cared about was having her there to make lemon meringue pie. The end.
When I was 27 years old, I left a very demanding job in management, consulting for jobs even more demanding, teaching. I went to teach 7th graders math in a New York City public schools, and like any teacher, I made quizzes and tests. I gave out homework assignments, and when the work came back, I calculated grades. What struck me was that IQ is not the only difference between my best and my worst students. Some of my strongest performers didn't have stratospheric IQ scores. Some of my smartest kids weren't doing so well. And that got me thinking, the kinds of things you need to learn in 7th grade math. Sure, they're hard. Ratios, decimals, the area of a parallelogram. But these concepts are not impossible, and I was firmly convinced that every one of my students could learn the material if they worked hard and long enough. The TED Talk Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Lee Duckworth shows that you don't have to have a high IQ to go anywhere in life. You need grit. Angela Lee Duckworth left a demanding job to teach math in the public schools of Philadelphia, San Francisco, and New York. As she taught the 7th grade for 5 years, became a psychologist, and studied people in challenging settings, she concludes that people with grit have a higher chance to excel in life. After several more years of teaching, I came to the conclusion that what we need in education is a much better understanding of students and learning from a motivational perspective, from a psychological perspective. In education, the one thing we know how to measure best is IQ. But what if doing well in school and in life depends on much more than your ability to learn quickly and easily? So I left the classroom, and I went to graduate school to become a psychologist. I started studying kids and adults in all kinds of super challenging settings, and in every study, my question was, who was the most successful here and why? My research team and I went to West Point Military Academy. We tried to predict which cadets would drop out. We went to the National Spelling Bee and tried to predict which children would advance farthest in competition. We studied rookie teachers working in really tough neighborhoods, asking, which of these teachers are still going to be here in teaching by the end of the school year? And of those, who will be the most effective at improving learning outcomes for their students? We partnered with private companies, asking which of these salespeople is going to keep their jobs and who's going to earn the most money. And in all those very different contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. And it wasn't social intelligence, it wasn't good looks, physical health, and it wasn't IQ. It was grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future day in, day out. Not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, working hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. A few years ago, I started studying grit in the Chicago public schools. I asked thousands of high school juniors to take grit questionnaires and then wait around more than a year to see who would graduate. Turns out grittier kids were significantly more likely to graduate, even when I matched them on every characteristic I could measure. Things like family income, standardized achievement test scores, even how safe kids felt when they were at school. So it's not just at West Point or the National Spelling Bee where grit matters. It's also in school, especially for kids at risk of dropping out. To me, the most shocking thing about grit is how little we know, how little science knows about building it. Every day, parents and teachers ask me, how do I build grit in kids? What do I do to teach kids a solid work ethic? How do I keep them motivated for the long run? The honest answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that talent doesn't make you gritty. Our data shows very clearly that there are many talented individuals who simply do not follow through on their commitments. In fact, in our data, grit is usually unrelated or even inversely related to measures of talent. So far, the best idea I've heard about building grit in kids is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed at Stanford University by Carol Dweck, and it is the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck has shown that when kids read and learn about the brain, how it grows in challenge and in response to challenge, they're much more likely to persevere when they fail, because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition. So growth mindset is a great idea for building grit, but we need more, and that's where I'm going to end my remarks, because that's where we are. That's the work that stands before us. We need to take our best ideas, our strongest intuitions, and we need to test them. We need to measure whether we've been successful, and we have to be willing to fail, to be wrong, to start over again with lessons learned. In other words, we need to be gritty about getting our kids grittier.